So in these last few weeks, heading into the primary, as you're going around the district, what's your message to voters why they should choose Phil Lyman over Celeste Malloy on their ballot?
Well, the main thing I'm looking at is Celeste's voting record. She's done a lot of good things, but she's done a lot of really bad things that I think are going to hurt people. Voting to not reveal the hush money payments from Congress to the victims of sexual harassment by members of Congress I think that was a bad vote on her part. Voting against, or voting for, to continue the legal immunity for the makers of glyphosate and Roundup and the pesticides. I think that was one that she should have been on the right side of that, making that farm bill a better bill. The FISA issue, her vote to, continue FISA without a warrant is a problem. I think people recognize that we're heading into a surveillance state. So I think as I'm talking, it really is to try to differentiate, and it's not to be negative about my opponent. It's about to say, do you realize that the stakes are very, very high on these things, and the way that the person that we elect is going to affect these things moving forward, and this is her track record so far, which I think is a poor track record.
Do you feel like you were able to highlight those votes in the debate? I didn't hear you talk about them.
No, it's hard in the debate to get anything up. I could have possibly said something in the closing, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of this form of debate because it doesn't allow for those things to come up. But
on the flip side of that, your opponent really pressed home that her track record is her strong suit in this race when running against you. What do you have to say to, obviously you have criticisms of her track record, but she sees it as a real strength of hers.
Yeah, I mean, we're both conservatives, we're both Republicans, and what I see is when she has the opportunity to make a bill better by voting with some of the amendments that were brought forward, she opted to stay with the establishment, which to me is a danger signal. That if you're more loyal to the status quo than to the people of Utah, that's going to have negative impacts moving forward, which I think I said in the debate.
You mentioned that you're not the biggest fan of this format. That said, what do you think is the most defining issue in this race, and how do you plan on communicating that over the next several weeks?
Transparency has been my mantra for a very, very long time, and in this race, it's still transparency. So when you have a congresswoman who has the opportunity to disclose the hush money that was paid out, and they opt not to, that's a problem. When they choose to continue warrantless surveillance, that's a problem. So across the board, transparency is so important to the people being able to see what's going on in government. We saw that through the Doge effort. It wasn't government that recognized that they were overspending. It was people that finally were told the truth about some of that. People need to be told the truth, and we've not been told the truth for a very long time. I don't think anybody even expects to hear the truth from members of Congress. And I recognize that there are nuances to being able to do that. I'm not trying to be critical. I'm saying the stakes are very, very high, and without transparency, we really don't have consent.
During the debate, you made reference to saying Utah being behind the curve on the Colorado River. I would like for you to elaborate on that just a little more. What do you feel that the state is not doing enough of to your satisfaction?
I was in the legislature for 6 years, and I was on the Water Development Commission, and it was an agreed upon fact that California had been negotiating, legal strategizing to get more and more water from Utah, and that we were behind the curve. They have very good attorneys, and so we were trying to play some catch up there. We have the water allocation. We talked about the wet water versus the paper water. Utah is required to send so much water down the Colorado River, yet we don't produce it. It's just a river and it's coming through, and that's got to be negotiated. And in the meantime, you've got large interests that are pushing the water for their own leverage, whether it's in California or Mexico or globally. It just so happens it comes back to the Colorado River, which is in this district, and it's a really, really a big issue that I guess I feel like Utah needs to really step into that space in a much more assertive way.
During the debate, you talked about the economic factors of the war in the Middle East, of the war in Iran. And I'm wondering, as Congress is thinking about a military authorization and providing that kind of constitutional authority for the military action, in Iran, do you think that they should let the Trump administration allow these negotiations to play out as long as possible to achieve these military objectives related to missiles and nuclear power, or should they urge a quick resolution to the war for the economic and maybe political concerns?
When you talk about the negotiations playing out, do you mean basically keep doing what we're doing in the Middle East?
Yeah.
Is that the negotiations you're talking about?
Sure.
The powers that we give to one president will be assumed by a president in the future using this as precedence. Like, oh, well, you've given these powers to the president to basically launch a war without congressional checks and balances. We have the War Powers Resolution that was put in place, and I believe that now is a really good time. We went in and we've taken out 50 of their top leaders. We've taken out, it gives me no satisfaction to see that we've taken out 90% of their industrial base. That's a huge amount of lost revenue. I mean, these are people who believe, we use the term Pax Arabia, of peace in the Middle East through commerce, through leadership, through incentives to get along with each other. And if we say, well, that's not going to cut it, we need to go in and destroy the infrastructure of entire countries, that's got to be at least after the initial wave. We need to come back and say, what's next? Do we just continue to destroy? Do we continue to bomb facilities and take the lives of people? Are we looking at potentially moving our own troops onto the ground in Iran? I think those questions have to be answered. We were told that it would be 2 weeks in and out, and I support the effort. I believe that I think the majority of the people in Iran support that effort, but that's something that it needs to have a congressional a vote to continue the hostilities or to make a different plan.
Can you elaborate your point on Social Security? If you talked about how people should be able to invest in gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies and stuff. Is there congressional, I don't know, it sounds like maybe you're thinking that Social Security is maybe not fixable at this point. Do you think Congress should do something to fix it? Or are you just saying people should plan for their retirements in other ways?
We're talking two different things there. I'm saying that people should be able to transact business, whether it's with hard assets or however they want to transact business, separate from the Social Security discussion, which is that the Social Security trust fund has been pilfered and is running out. It's not viable. So I think we're talking two different things there. But yeah, I do believe that people should be able to transact business using digital currency or gold or silver without fear of being regulated by the United States federal government on that. And I also believe that on the Social Security side that we're going to see, increased inflation being the biggest threat to people's Social Security checks moving forward.
So what do you think Congress should do if you're elected to fix that problem with Social Security?
I think what they will do is to continue the pattern of quantitative easing. I don't see a way around it. The national debt at $40 trillion, back in 2005, 2004, right in there, when it hit $8 trillion, there was kind of a consensus that this debt is too big to pay off without quantitative easing. So now we've entered into that plan. It gets more and more aggressive, and the net effect is we're basically printing money to pay our debts, and the net effect of that is massive inflation. So I believe that that's going to continue. In the meantime, we have to stop spending so much money, and we have to start auditing those programs where it's just outright theft. I mean, they're stealing the money. They're stealing our money, and we see it. This recent case with the 303 gold bars, in the hands of the CIA, a top person in the CIA. It's like, and we just brush that off as if it's business as usual. It's $40 million worth of gold that this guy has from the covert asset fund of the CIA. That's an issue that, I don't know, people should be really upset by that, and somehow we just, I guess we've come to expect it.
You had said that you don't support the federal transfer of federal lands to the state. You transfer to the county, or do you ultimately sell them to a private company?
There's two things there. The federal government has a duty to dispose, and I believe that that's the case. The timing of that has always been the big question. It's like, okay, well, do we have to do it now? No, we can wait. The problem, the balance that we have currently is federal ownership, proprietorship, and that was in the Eisenhower report from 1955, 56. That laid out what that proprietorship was for the federal government. It's very little jurisdiction. The state has the majority of the jurisdiction on federal lands. So you've got the proprietorship on one hand, the jurisdiction on the other. Who's the beneficiary of that? It's the people of Utah who don't want to lose those federal lands. They want to be able to access them. My fear of transferring those to the state into state hands is you're transferring it into people who have shown a proclivity to reward people that support them politically and punish those who do not support them. And if it's going to transfer, I believe that it has to be done more like, and I mentioned that in the debate, more like the homestead provision, that people earn the right to acquire some federal land based on their willingness to put their effort and time into it, not just their money.
That's all the time we have?
Private ownership, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.